organization, but perhaps marginally more efficient. And as Tiziana's brother-in-law, you should know. It's because I made the mistake of marrying Tiziana's sister that I'm obliged to be here witnessing this." Nerva looked in disbelief at the shambles unfolding. "Gods, but we could do with the infantry and cavalry Otho took with him. 40-odd thousand against our 30. Does he need that larger bodyguard so far from the enemy? It's lost us the battle before it's even begun." Sabinus shook his head and turned to the thin-striped military tribune awaiting orders behind his superiors. "Has our personal baggage been taken to the rear?" The lad nodded, trying to keep the fear from his expression with a false smile. "Yes, sir, and the spare horses you asked for." Sabinus nodded with grim satisfaction and turned back to his companion. "We put up a decent show, then get out as fast as possible and surrender to Valens, hopefully. That would seem the wisest course of action, and then we become the ardent supporters of Vitellius until—" Nerva left the sentence hanging. "Until what?" Nerva lowered his voice and leant closer to Sabinus. "I heard that your father made a trip to Judea during the time that Galba relieved him as prefect of Rome." Sabinus kept his face neutral. Vitellian horns sounded their advance. "Maybe, but it's no business of yours." Nerva was not to be deterred. He returned soon after Otho had assassinated Galba and the Senate declared him emperor, just before the news arrived that Vitellius had been hailed as such on the Rhenus. Sabinus concentrated his attention on the river, where 2,000 gladiators, making up the rest of his unlikely command, were in danger of being caught disembarking from the flotilla that had ferried them across. Nerva pressed his point. "It wasn't a sightseeing trip, I'm sure. Your uncle, Vespasian, commands the Eastern legions putting down the Jewish revolt. That's a powerful force. My guess is that your father and uncle had some in-depth conversations about how this crisis would play out, and if I'm right in thinking, Galba, Otho, and Vitellius aren't the only emperors that we'll see this year. The question is, who'll get the prize? Your father or your uncle? But just so you know, I'll support either of them." Titus Flavius Sabinus did not respond, but rather busied himself by sending the tribune with orders to the gladiators to keep themselves positioned hard on the bank of the Po so as to prevent the Batavian auxiliaries, advancing towards them, from outflanking them. His mind, however, was elsewhere. He wondered how Nerva had come by this information, and who else knew of his father's secret errand. Otho slumped back in his chair and looked up along the line of sullen faces. None of his generals could meet his eye as they apprised him of the calamitous defeat. And calamitous it had been. The Vitellian forces had shown no quarter to their fellow citizens with different loyalties, as, through the convention of civil war, they could be neither sold nor ransomed, so were therefore worthless to them. Thousands had been slaughtered. "It's over then," Otho said, fingering the tip of one of the 2 daggers on the desk before him. "The rest of the Median legions could still come to your aid," Otho's older brother, Salvius Titianus, urged, as he saw despair in his sibling's eyes, and therefore probable execution in his own future. Otho shook his head with regret. His face was handsome and melancholic, but running to fat after 10 years of luxurious exile as governor of Lusitania. "It was my mistake not to wait for them to arrive in the first place. I thought that delay would bring disaster. Now, I find the very opposite to be the truth." He paused, reflecting upon his position, running a hand through the thick curls of his hair. "Am I to expose your courage and valor to further risks? That would, I believe, be too great a price for my life. It was Vitellius who initiated our contest for the throne and began this war. But it is I who shall end it. Let this one battle be enough. This is the precedent that I shall set, and posterity shall judge me by it." Otho stood, looking down at his 2 blades. "I am not the man to allow the flower of Roman martial strength to be mown down senselessly and thereby weaken our empire. So, gentlemen, I take consolation in the fact that you were prepared to die for me. But you must live. I will not interfere with your chances of pardon, so don't attempt to interfere with my resolve." "And did he do it then and there?" the elder Sabinus asked his son. "No, father." The younger Sabinus took a draught of warm wine, draining the